Summer of 2022, Emily Harper, a 28-year-old solo thru-hiker from Oregon, laced up her worn boots, slung a 30-pound pack over her shoulders, and set out to conquer the Colorado Trail, a 485-mile ribbon of rugged beauty stretching from Denver to Durango. Emily was no stranger to the wild. She'd hiked the Pacific Crest Trail 2 years prior, her social media filled with sun-dappled selfies and captions about finding peace in solitude. Her friends called her fearless, but her family worried about her penchant for hiking alone, especially after she'd brushed off their concerns with a laugh, saying, "The mountains are safer than most people." The Colorado Trail was her next challenge, a chance to lose herself in the San Juan Mountains' jagged peaks and whispering pine forests. She'd planned meticulously. Her pack held a lightweight tent, a water filter, a satellite communicator, and a small camera with an SD card for capturing the journey. Her itinerary, shared with her sister, Claire, outlined 28 days of hiking, with resupply stops in small trail towns like Silverton. Emily's last post on X, dated July 12th, 2022, showed her grinning at the trailhead, her auburn hair tucked under a wide-brimmed hat, with the caption, "Ready to disappear into the wild. See you on the other side." The first week went smoothly. Emily sent daily check-ins via her satellite communicator, brief messages to Claire like, "Day 3, stunning views at Molas Pass," or "Day 5, elk sighting." Her posts on X painted a vivid picture of her journey: alpine meadows bursting with wildflowers, granite cliffs glowing under dawn's first light, and the quiet thrill of being utterly alone. But on July 20th, her messages stopped. Claire assumed it was a dead battery or a signal issue. Emily had warned her about spotty coverage in the San Juans. Days passed, then a week. Claire's unease grew into panic. She contacted the Colorado Search and Rescue Association, who launched an extensive search. Helicopters buzzed over the trail, volunteers combed ridgelines, and rangers interviewed other hikers. No trace of Emily was found. No pack, no tent, no footprints. The trail, it seemed, had swallowed her whole. Theories swirled: a fall from a cliff, a bear attack, or perhaps she'd wandered off trail and succumbed to exposure. The San Juans were unforgiving, with sudden storms and sub-zero nights, even in summer. Yet, Emily was experienced, cautious even in her boldness. Her disappearance baffled investigators, and the case grew cold as months turned to years. In 2025, a hiker stumbled upon a weathered hiking boot in a remote section of the Weminuche Wilderness, miles from the main trail. Inside, tucked beneath the insole, was an SD card, scratched but intact. The hiker, unaware of its significance, turned it over to authorities, who linked it to Emily Harper through metadata on the files. The discovery ignited a media frenzy. How had the SD card survived 3 years in the wild? Why was it hidden in a shoe? The card held photos and videos, a digital diary of Emily's final days, but the contents raised more questions than answers. The first image, timestamped July 15th, showed Emily at a high-altitude lake, her face tired but smiling. Later images grew strange. Blurry shots of dense forest, a shadowy figure in the distance, and a cryptic note scratched into a tree. "They're watching." Videos showed Emily whispering to the camera, her voice strained, mentioning lights in the sky and "someone following me." The final video, dated July 19th, cut off abruptly as she turned the camera toward a rustling in the underbrush. Claire, now haunted by the footage, refused to believe Emily had simply gotten lost. The SD card suggested something darker, something deliberate. The search for answers reignited. Authorities reopened the case, focusing on the Weminuche Wilderness, where the shoe was found. The area was notorious for its inaccessibility, with steep ravines and dense thickets that could hide a body indefinitely. Volunteers scoured the site, but no other trace of Emily emerged. The SD card's contents fueled wild speculation on X. Some claimed she'd encountered a cult, others pointed to extraterrestrial activity, citing her mention of lights in the sky. Claire, a graphic designer with no investigative experience, took it upon herself to analyze the footage. She noticed details the police overlooked. Recurring symbol in the background of several photos, resembling a crude spiral carved into rocks and trees. It wasn't a known trail marker, and its repetition felt intentional. Claire cross-referenced the symbol with online forums, finding references to a reclusive group rumored to live off-grid in the San Juans, shunning outsiders. Could Emily have stumbled into their territory? The idea seemed far-fetched, but the SD card's evidence suggested she'd been scared, perhaps running from something or someone. Claire's obsession with the case strained her relationships and consumed her nights. She pored over maps, hiked sections of the trail herself, and posted pleas for information on X, hoping another hiker might have seen something. The SD card became her lifeline to Emily, a puzzle she needed to solve. The police, overwhelmed by the lack of physical evidence, urged her to move on, but Claire couldn't. The final video haunted her. Emily's wide eyes, her shaky whisper, "I don't know what they want." Who were they? The spiral symbol gnawed at Claire, appearing in her dreams like a warning. She began to wonder if Emily's disappearance wasn't an accident but a cover-up, a secret buried in the mountains. The Colorado Trail, once a symbol of freedom for Emily, now felt like a labyrinth hiding a truth Claire was determined to uncover, no matter the cost. The SD card was the key, but it was only the beginning. Claire Harper sat hunched over her laptop in her Portland apartment, the glow of the screen casting harsh shadows across her face. It was late 2025, and the SD card found in Emily's shoe had become both a lifeline and a curse. The police had dismissed much of the footage as the ramblings of a disoriented hiker, likely dehydrated or hypothermic, but Claire knew her sister better than that. Emily was meticulous, grounded even in the wild. The cryptic images and videos, the spiral symbols, the shadowy figure, Emily's whispered fears, pointed to something deliberate, something sinister. Claire had uploaded stills from the SD card to X, asking for help identifying the spiral, and the response was overwhelming. Hikers, conspiracy theorists, and amateur sleuths flooded her mentions with theories. Ancient Native American petroglyphs, a secret society's marker, even alien communication. Most were dead ends, but one post caught her eye, a grainy photo of a similar spiral carved into a boulder near Engineer Pass, not far from where Emily's shoe was found. The user, @TrailGhost, claimed it was a warning sign left by a reclusive group living in the San Juans, a cult-like commune that shunned outsiders and guarded their territory fiercely. Claire messaged @TrailGhost, but the account went silent, its last activity a cryptic post. Some trails lead to places you can't come back from. Determined to follow the lead, Claire packed her car and drove to Colorado, her heart pounding with a mix of dread and purpose. She rented a room in Silverton, a mining town nestled in the San Juans, and spent her days hiking the trail's rugged segments, retracing Emily's steps. The Weminuche Wilderness, where the shoe was found, was a labyrinth of granite spires and tangled undergrowth, its vastness swallowing sound and light. Claire carried a printed map marked with GPS coordinates from the SD card's metadata, pinpointing Emily's last known locations. She wasn't a seasoned hiker like her sister, but grief and obsession drove her forward. At night, she studied the SD card's files, now copied to her laptop. One photo, timestamped July 17, 2022, showed Emily standing beside a stream, the spiral symbol etched into a nearby rock. The next image, taken hours later, was a close-up of the same spiral, but the rock's texture looked different, as if it had been freshly carved. Claire's pulse quickened. Had Emily been marking her path, or had someone else left the symbol as a message? The videos were harder to parse. In one, Emily's voice trembled as she filmed herself at dusk, saying, "I keep seeing them. They're not animals. They move too fast." The camera panned to a ridge, catching a fleeting glimpse of something humanoid before the footage cut out. Claire's search led her to a local outfitter, Tom Grayson, a grizzled ex-ranger who'd worked the San Juans for decades. Over coffee at a Silverton diner, she showed him the spiral photos. Tom's face darkened. He'd heard rumors of a group called the Watchers, a secretive community that had split off from a survivalist sect in the 1980s. They lived deep in the Weminuche, far from any trail, in makeshift shelters hidden by the terrain. They don't take kindly to intruders, Tom warned, his voice low. Folks say they've scared off hikers, left strange markings to keep people away. Never seen proof, but I've felt watched out there myself. He pointed Claire to a remote trailhead near Onimus Forks, a ghost town where Emily's last satellite check-in had pinged. Against Tom's advice, Claire set out alone, her pack heavy with supplies and a borrowed handgun she barely knew how to use. The trail was steep, the air thin, and every rustle in the pines set her nerves on edge. She found the first spiral 2 miles in, carved into a tree, its edges weathered but unmistakable. Nearby, half buried in the dirt, was a scrap of fabric that matched Emily's bandana from one of the SD card photos. The discovery sent Claire into a frenzy. She photographed the fabric, marked the GPS coordinates, and posted about it on X, hoping to crowdsource more leads. Responses poured in, but one stood out, a direct message from that trail ghost who'd resurfaced after months of silence. "You're getting close," the message read. "Check the caves near Rio Grande Pyramid. But be careful, they don't like being found." Claire's stomach churned. The Rio Grande Pyramid was a remote peak in the Weminuche, miles from any maintained trail. She contacted the police, but they dismissed the message as a prank, citing the lack of concrete evidence. Frustrated, Claire hired a local guide, Mia Torres, a wiry woman with a reputation for navigating the San Juan's toughest terrain. Mia was skeptical, but intrigued by the SD card's footage. Together, they trekked toward the pyramid, battling scree fields and sudden storms. In a narrow canyon, they found a cave entrance partially hidden by boulders. Inside, the air was damp, the walls etched with more spirals. Claire's flashlight caught something glinting in the dark, a metal locket, engraved with Emily's initials. Her hands shook as she opened it, revealing a tiny photo of the two sisters together, smiling. It was proof Emily had been here, but why? Had she hidden the locket, or had someone taken it from her? The cave yielded more questions than answers. Scattered among the rocks were signs of recent habitation, charred wood from a fire, a torn sleeping bag, and a crude map scratched into the wall, showing a network of trails Claire didn't recognize. The spirals were everywhere, some fresh, others faded, as if carved over years. Mia urged caution, sensing they weren't alone, but Claire pressed deeper, driven by the need to understand Emily's fate. As night fell, they camped near the cave, the silence of the wilderness broken by distant footsteps. Claire clutched the handgun, her heart racing. In the morning, they found fresh footprints circling their tent, too deliberate to be random. Mia wanted to leave, but Claire refused. She was too close. Back in Silverton, she uploaded the locket's photo to X, sparking a new wave of speculation. A user claiming to be a former watcher contacted her, offering to meet in Durango. He said the group had a history of protecting their land at any cost, and Emily might have crossed a line. Claire agreed to the meeting, her mind spinning with possibilities. The SD card, the spirals, the locket, it was all connected, a trail leading not just to Emily, but to a truth buried in the mountain's shadows. Claire Harper sat in the back booth of a dimly lit Durango diner, her fingers tapping nervously on a chipped coffee mug. It was late October 2025, and the air outside carried the bite of approaching winter. She'd driven from Silverton to meet at Lost Wanderer, the ex-user claiming to be a former member of the Watchers, the reclusive group tied to the spiral symbols and, possibly, Emily's disappearance. The SD card's haunting footage, Emily's whispers about being followed, the shadowy figure, the cryptic they're watching, played on a loop in Claire's mind. The locket found in the cave near Rio Grande Pyramid had confirmed Emily had been there, but the why and how remained elusive. The diner's door jingled, and a man in his late 40s slid into the booth across from her. He introduced himself as Daniel, his weathered face and guarded eyes betraying a life spent on the fringes. "I left the Watchers 5 years ago," he said, his voice low. "But you don't ever really leave. They don't forget." Daniel's story painted a chilling picture. The Watchers were a tight-knit community, descended from a doomsday cult that settled in the San Juans decades ago. They believed the mountains held sacred energy, and their mission was to protect it from outsiders, by any means necessary. Daniel explained that the spirals were their markers, a warning to trespassers. The group lived in hidden encampments, moving seasonally to avoid detection. They shunned technology, except for a few who monitored the outside world through burner phones and anonymous X accounts. Emily, he speculated, might have stumbled into one of their sacred sites, perhaps near the cave where Claire found the locket. They don't take kindly to hikers who get too close, Daniel said, glancing over his shoulder. Most they scare off with noises or those symbols. But if someone persists, he trailed off, his expression grim. Claire showed him photos from the SD card, including the spiral carvings and the blurry figure in the distance. Daniel's eyes widened at one image, a spiral with a faint crescent shape inside it, etched on a tree. That's a council mark, he whispered. Only their leaders use it. If Emily saw that, she was in deep. He refused to say more in public, promising to meet again in 2 days with a map to the Watchers' current camp, but only if Claire came alone. She agreed, though his insistence on secrecy unnerved her. Back in Silverton, Claire confided in Mia Torres, her guide, who was growing increasingly uneasy. Mia had seen the fresh footprints around their tent near the cave and heard rumors of missing hikers in the Weminuche over the years. "This isn't just about Emily anymore," Mia said, her voice firm. "You're poking a hornet's nest." Claire couldn't stop, though. Not with the locket, the SD card, and now Daniel's testimony pointing to a deliberate act. She spent the next day preparing, studying maps and cross-referencing the SD card's GPS data with Daniel's vague directions. The footage revealed more clues. A video from July 18, 2022, showed Emily filming a spiral on a cliff face, her voice barely audible over the wind. "I found another one. It's fresh. I don't know how they're doing this so fast." The camera shook as she panned to a distant ridge, where 3 figures stood motionless, their outlines indistinct. Claire froze the frame, her heart racing. The figures weren't wearing hiking gear. They looked like they belonged to the mountain itself, cloaked in earth-toned fabrics. Were these the Watchers? Had Emily been hunted? When the day of the meeting arrived, Claire drove to a remote trailhead Daniel had specified, a desolate spot near Vallecito Reservoir. He was late, and the silence of the forest felt oppressive. Just as she considered leaving, Daniel appeared, his face pale. He handed her a crumpled map, hand-drawn with a spiral marking a location deep in the Weminuche. "This is where they are now," he said, his voice urgent. "But you can't go alone. They'll know you're coming." Before Claire could press him for details, a crack echoed through the trees, a gunshot. Daniel dropped, blood blooming across his chest. Claire dove behind her car, her pulse hammering as she fumbled for the handgun in her pack. Footsteps crunched in the distance, then faded. When she dared to look, Daniel was gone, dragged into the underbrush, the map still clutched in her hand. Trembling, she called Mia, who arrived with a local sheriff. The police found no body, no blood trail, only tire tracks from an unknown vehicle. The sheriff dismissed it as a poacher's stray shot, but Claire knew better. The Watchers were real, and they were covering their tracks. Claire and Mia returned to the cave near Rio Grande Pyramid, using Daniel's map as a guide. The terrain was brutal, with icy winds and treacherous slopes. Inside the cave, they found fresh signs of activity. New spirals carved into the walls, a pile of ash from a recent fire, and a small knife with a carved wooden handle, eerily similar to one Emily had carried. Claire's hope surged. Emily might still be alive, a captive perhaps, or hiding. But the danger was palpable. At night, they heard whispers outside their tent, too soft to make out but unmistakably human. Mia, now fully committed, suggested they set a trap to lure the Watchers out. They left a decoy backpack near the cave, rigged with a motion sensor camera Claire had bought in Durango. The next morning, the camera had captured grainy footage of 2 figures inspecting the pack, their faces obscured by hoods. One held a spiral pendant, glinting in the moonlight. Claire posted the footage on X, tagging at Trail Ghost and pleading for help. The response was immediate. A new message from an anonymous account warned, "Stop digging, or you'll end up like her." Claire's resolve hardened. The Watchers had taken her sister, and now they were coming for her. The map, the SD card, the locket, they were pieces of a puzzle she was determined to solve, even if it meant walking straight into their domain. Claire Harper's hands trembled as she clutched Daniel's crumpled map, its crude spiral marking a location deep in the Weminuche Wilderness. It was early November 2025, and the San Juan Mountains were cloaked in a brittle chill, the first snow dusting the peaks. The murder of Daniel, the former Watcher, had shaken her, but the grainy footage from the motion sensor camera, showing hooded figures with a spiral pendant, confirmed the Watchers were real and dangerously close. Claire and her guide, Mia Torres, had returned to Silverton to regroup, but Claire's resolve only grew stronger. The SD card's haunting images, the locket with Emily's initials, and now the map pointed to a truth buried in the mountains. Emily hadn't just vanished. She'd crossed paths with a group that would kill to protect their secrets. Claire's posts on X had drawn attention, both helpful and threatening. The anonymous warning, "Stop digging or you'll end up like her," echoed in her mind, but she couldn't stop. Not when she was so close. Mia, though wary, agreed to one final expedition to the map's location, a hidden valley near Rio Grande Pyramid. They packed for a week, arming themselves with a handgun, a satellite phone, and a drone Claire had bought to scout the rugged terrain. The trek to the valley was grueling, a 5-day slog through snow-dusted scree and dense pine forests. Claire's legs ached, and her breath came in sharp gasps at the high altitude, but the thought of Emily kept her moving. The map led them to a narrow gorge, its entrance concealed by a rockfall. As they squeezed through, Claire spotted another spiral carved into a boulder, its edges fresh and sharp. The valley beyond was eerily silent, a bowl of granite and evergreens untouched by trails. Mia piloted the drone, its camera revealing a cluster of makeshift shelters, tarps and logs camouflaged against the cliffs. Claire's heart raced. This was the Watchers' camp. The drone footage showed no movement, but fresh footprints crisscrossed the snow. They set up camp a mile away, hidden in a copse of trees, and waited for nightfall. Claire reviewed the SD card's final video again, Emily's voice barely a whisper. "I don't know what they want." The camera had caught a glimpse of a spiral pendant hanging from a figure's neck, identical to the one in the motion sensor footage. Claire was certain. The Watchers had confronted Emily here, and this valley held the answers. At dawn, Claire and Mia crept toward the camp, moving silently to avoid detection. The shelters were empty, but signs of recent activity abounded. Ash from a fire, a stack of dried herbs, and a crude altar of stones arranged in a spiral. Claire's breath caught as she found a tattered journal, its pages filled with cryptic notes and sketches of a spiral symbol. One entry, dated July 2022, read, "Outsider at the sacred site. She saw too much. Council orders silence." Claire's blood ran cold. Was this about Emily? Before she could read further, a low whistle pierced the air, and Mia grabbed her arm, pulling her behind a boulder. Footsteps crunched closer, and 3 figures emerged, cloaked in earth-toned robes, their faces obscured by hoods. One wore the spiral pendant, its silver glinting in the weak sunlight. They spoke in hushed tones, their words unintelligible but urgent. Claire's hand tightened on the handgun, but Mia shook her head, mouthing, "Not yet." The figures inspected the camp, then vanished into the trees, unaware of the intruders. Claire's heart pounded. She'd been inches from the Watchers, and the journal was proof they'd targeted Emily. Desperate for more evidence, Claire and Mia searched the camp, finding a locked metal box hidden under the altar. Mia pried it open with a knife, revealing a cache of items, a satellite communicator like Emily's, a woman's hiking glove, and a small vial of dark liquid. Claire recognized the glove. It matched the one in Emily's SD card photos. Her hands shook as she powered on the communicator, its screen flickering to life. It held a single unsent message, timestamped July 19th, 2022. Claire, I'm in trouble. They're not what they seem. The spirals don't trust. The message cut off unfinished. Claire's vision blurred with tears. Emily had been here, alive, trying to reach her. But who were they? The Watchers or something else? Mia, scanning the journal, pointed to a sketch of a spiral encircled by strange runes, with a note. The Guardians protect the anomaly. Claire's mind raced. Daniel had mentioned the Watcher's belief in a sacred energy, but this hinted at something stranger, something beyond a cult's paranoia. The vial's liquid smelled metallic, almost like blood, but testing it would have to wait. They took photos of everything, pocketed the glove and communicator, and hid the journal back under the altar, knowing they couldn't carry it without risking detection. As night fell, the valley grew hostile. Whispers echoed through the trees, and shadows seemed to move just beyond their flashlight beams. Mia's drone, left circling above, suddenly lost signal, crashing somewhere in the gorge. Claire's satellite phone buzzed with a garbled message. Leave now or join her. Panic surged, but Claire refused to flee. She and Mia set up another motion sensor camera near the camp, hoping to catch the Watcher's movements. At midnight, the camera triggered, capturing footage of a ritual. 5 figures in robes, chanting around a fire, their leader holding a spiral pendant aloft. The flames flared unnaturally, casting shadows that seemed to twist into impossible shapes. Claire's stomach churned. Emily's video had mentioned lights in the sky, and now this. Was the anomaly something supernatural, or a delusion the Watchers had built their lives around? The footage cut out as a figure turned toward the camera, their eyes glinting like an animal's. Claire posted a clip on X, begging for help decoding the runes and the ritual. A user, at Cryptic Trails, responded with a chilling analysis. The runes resembled ancient symbols tied to ley lines, believed to channel cosmic energy. The valley, they claimed, sat on a convergence point, a place of unexplained phenomena. Claire didn't believe in the supernatural, but the evidence was mounting. Emily had stumbled into something far bigger than a reclusive cult. Claire Harper crouched in the icy shadows of the Weminuche Wilderness, her breath visible in the November 2025 air as she and Mia Torres watched the Watchers camp from a ridge overlooking the hidden valley. The motion sensor camera's footage of the ritual, 5 robed figures chanting around a fire, their spiral pendant glowing in the unnatural flames, had shaken Claire to her core. The SD card's haunting clues, the locket, the journal, and the satellite communicator's unfinished message. Claire, I'm in trouble. They're not what they seem. The spirals don't trust, pointed to a truth far stranger than a reclusive cult. The valley, according to at Cryptic Trails on X, sat on a ley line convergence, a place of supposed cosmic energy. Claire didn't believe in mysticism, but the evidence was undeniable. Emily had stumbled into something extraordinary, and the Watchers would kill to protect it. The journal's mention of the anomaly and the vial of metallic liquid suggested a secret that went beyond human paranoia. Claire and Mia had one chance to uncover it before the Watchers closed in. They planned to infiltrate the camp at dawn, retrieve the journal, and escape to alert the authorities, but the mountains seemed to conspire against them, with sudden snow squalls and eerie whispers in the dark. As they waited, Claire reviewed the SD card's final video again, pausing on the frame where Emily's camera caught 3 figures on a ridge. Their robes matched the Watchers, but their movements were too fluid, almost otherworldly. The journal's cryptic note, "The Guardians protect the anomaly," nodded her. Was the anomaly a natural phenomenon, a delusion, or something else? Mia, scanning the valley with binoculars, spotted movement near the altar. A lone figure, hooded and carrying a spiral pendant, was placing something in the metal box Claire had found earlier. They decided to act. Under cover of darkness, they crept into the camp, hearts pounding. The figure was gone, but the box was unlocked, revealing a new item, a small, metallic device, etched with spirals and emitting a faint hum. Claire's fingers brushed it, and a jolt like static shot through her, followed by a fleeting vision of shimmering lights in the sky, similar to what Emily had described. Mia, alarmed, urged her to leave it, but Claire pocketed the device, along with the journal, and they retreated to their camp, unaware that eyes were watching from the trees. At dawn, the watcher struck. Claire awoke to Mia's scream as hooded figures surrounded their tent, their spiral pendants glinting. Claire fired her handgun into the air, scattering them momentarily, but they were outnumbered. A woman stepped forward, her face partially visible, sharp cheekbones, eyes like flint. "You should have heeded the warning," she said, her voice calm but lethal. She called herself Alara, a council leader, and demanded the device. Claire, clutching the journal, refused, shouting about Emily. Alara's expression flickered. Recognition. Perhaps regret. "Your sister saw what she shouldn't have," Alara said. The anomaly chose her. Before Claire could process this, Mia tackled a watcher, creating an opening. They fled, sprinting through the gorge as arrows whistled past, crude but deadly. Claire's pack snagged on a branch, spilling the device. It hit the ground, and a low hum filled the air, followed by a pulse of light that illuminated the valley. The watchers froze, their faces a mix of awe and fear. Claire and Mia reached a cliff's edge, cornered, but the light grew brighter, revealing a shimmering distortion in the air, a portal-like anomaly, rippling with colors no human eye should see. Claire's mind reeled as the journal's words clicked. The watchers weren't just protecting land, they were guarding this. Alara approached, her pendant glowing in sync with the anomaly. "It's a gateway," she said, her voice reverent. "Your sister crossed through. She's not dead, she's beyond." Claire's heart lurched. "Emily alive?" Alara explained. The watchers believed the anomaly connected to another realm, a place of infinite knowledge. They'd revered it for decades, using the spirals to mark its boundaries and the metallic liquid, a byproduct of the anomaly, to commune with it. Emily, curious and fearless, had found the gateway during her hike. The watchers tried to scare her off, but she'd activated a device like the one Claire held, stepping through before they could stop her. The SD card, hidden in her shoe, was her attempt to leave a trail, a warning. Claire demanded to follow, but Alara warned that the gateway was unstable, its destination unknown. Mia, bleeding from an arrow graze, urged Claire to escape and expose the truth. But Claire couldn't leave without knowing. She handed Mia the journal and device, whispering, "Get this to the police." Then, before Mia could stop her, Claire stepped toward the anomaly. The world dissolved in light. Claire felt weightless, her senses overwhelmed by colors and sounds that defied description. When her vision cleared, she stood in a vast, alien landscape, jagged peaks under a sky of swirling purples. Emily stood before her alive, her face older but unmistakable. "Claire," she whispered, tears streaming. Emily explained. The anomaly was a rift to another dimension, a place where time moved differently. She'd been here for years, unable to return. The Watcher's devices, ancient and scavenged, had opened the rift, but only the brave or reckless could cross. Emily had documented everything on the SD card, hiding it in her shoe before the Watchers caught her. She'd hoped Claire would find it, not follow her. As they embraced, the ground trembled, the rift destabilizing. Emily pushed Claire back toward the fading portal, shouting, "Tell the world." Claire stumbled through, landing in the snow as the anomaly collapsed, sealing Emily away. Mia, waiting with the journal, helped her up. The Watchers had vanished, their camp abandoned. Claire, heartbroken but resolute, knew she had to honor Emily's wish. She and Mia trekked out, delivering the journal and device to the authorities, sparking a federal investigation. The SD card's footage, posted on X, went viral, exposing the Watchers and the anomaly. Claire never saw Emily again, but the spirals, etched in her memory, drove her to keep searching for a way to reopen the rift, a sister's promise to bring her home. Emily Harper stood in the dim light of her Portland apartment, the journal and metallic device from the Weminuche Wilderness laid out on her desk like relics of a lost world. It was spring 2026, 6 months since she'd stepped through the anomaly and found Emily alive in a dimension beyond comprehension, only to lose her again when the rift collapsed. The San Juan Mountains had become a media circus after Claire and Mia Torres delivered the journal, the device, and the SD card's footage to the authorities. The viral X-posts, grainy clips of the Watcher's ritual, the shimmering anomaly, and Emily's haunting videos had sparked global fascination. Scientists, conspiracy theorists, and government agencies descended on the Weminuche, searching for the vanished Watchers and the rift they'd guarded. But the valley was empty, the shelters dismantled, the spirals weathered into obscurity. Claire, however, couldn't let go. Emily's final words, "Tell the world," burned in her heart, a promise to reopen the rift and bring her sister home. The device, now in her possession after Mia smuggled it from the valley, hummed faintly, its spiral etchings glowing under her touch. Claire knew it held the key, but unlocking its secrets would mean facing dangers she could barely imagine. The federal investigation into the Watchers had stalled. The journal's cryptic notes about the Guardians and the anomaly were dismissed as cult nonsense, and the metallic liquid from the vial, analyzed by a lab, yielded no answers, its composition defying known chemistry. Claire, frustrated by the government's secrecy, turned to the online community. She posted detailed scans of the journal on X, crowdsourcing translations of the runes and theories about the device. A user, @QuantumWanderer, a physicist who'd studied ley lines, contacted her privately, claiming the device resembled theoretical quantum tech, capable of bending spacetime. They met in Denver, where the physicist, Dr. Lena Patel, examined the device under a microscope, revealing microscopic circuits embedded in its surface, far beyond human engineering. "This isn't from Earth," Lena said, her voice trembling. "It could stabilize a wormhole like the one you saw." Claire's pulse quickened. Emily's dimension wasn't a delusion, but a tangible place, reachable if she could reactivate the rift. Lena agreed to help, but warned that the Watchers, though scattered, were still watching, their network deeper than anyone knew. Claire and Lena set up a makeshift lab in a rented cabin near Silverton, using Lena's connections to secure equipment for studying the device. Mia, now a steadfast ally, joined them, her knowledge of the San Juans proving invaluable. They returned to the valley under cover of night, guided by the journal's map and Claire's memory of the anomaly's location. The air felt charged, as if the mountain itself remembered the rift. Lena's instruments detected faint electromagnetic anomalies, strongest near the altar where Claire had found the journal. As they worked, Claire noticed fresh spirals carved into nearby trees, their edges sharp and deliberate. The Watchers hadn't vanished. They'd gone underground, perhaps waiting for Claire to return. One night, their camp was raided. Masked figures stole half their equipment and left a warning, a spiral pendant nailed to a tree, its chain dripping with the same metallic liquid. Mia wanted to abandon the mission, but Claire refused. She'd lost Emily once. She wouldn't lose her again. Lena, analyzing the device, discovered it responded to specific frequencies, emitting pulses of light when tuned correctly. They were close to reactivating it, but the Watchers' interference grew bolder, with footsteps circling their camp each night. Desperate for answers, Claire tracked down at Trail Ghost, the elusive ex-user who'd first pointed her to the Watchers. After weeks of messages, they agreed to meet in Durango. The user, a young woman named Sarah, revealed she'd been born into the Watchers but fled as a teenager. She confirmed Alara's story. The anomaly was a gateway, revered as a divine passage. The Watchers believed it led to a realm of enlightenment, but only the chosen could cross. Emily, Sarah said, had been marked as an intruder but activated the device by accident, stepping through before the Watchers could stop her. Sarah had hidden the SD card in Emily's shoe, hoping it would reach Claire. She handed Claire a stolen Watcher text, written in code, detailing rituals to stabilize the rift. Deciphering it took days, but it revealed a sequence of tones to activate the device, tied to the ley line's energy. Sarah warned that the Watchers' Council, led by Alara, was regrouping to destroy the device, fearing outsiders would exploit the rift. Claire, Lena, and Mia raced back to the valley, knowing time was running out. The final attempt to reopen the rift came on a moonless night, the valley cloaked in silence. Lena set up the device on the altar, its hum growing louder as she input the tone sequence. Claire clutched the journal, her heart pounding as the air shimmered, the anomaly flickering into existence. But the Watchers attacked, led by Alara, their arrows and blades glinting. Mia fought back, using her knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver them, while Lena protected the device. Claire, caught in the chaos, saw the rift stabilize, a portal of swirling colors, calling to her. Alara lunged, knife raised, but Claire dodged, shouting Emily's name into the rift. A figure appeared, Emily, older, her eyes wide with hope. The rift pulsed, unstable, as Claire reached out. Emily threw a small object through, as a new SD card, etched with a spiral. "Keep it safe," she yelled before the rift collapsed. Alara fled as sirens wailed. Mia had signaled the authorities. The new SD card held Emily's recordings from the other side, a chronicle of her survival, the alien world's wonders, and a plea to protect the rift from exploitation. Claire, now a guardian of its secret, vowed to continue her work, not to reopen the rift, but to honor Emily's wish to keep it hidden, a mystery the mountains would hold forever.